Well, greetings, everybody. This is Kathleen Gage with Power Up for Profits, and I am thrilled today to have my special guest. And at my age, you need a little assistance, so here comes my assistance right there. Okay. From introverted child to successful businesswoman to triathlete at the age of 50, I love that, violin student at the age of 54, and completing a 300-mile bike challenge in 30 days, Colleen faces any challenge with an open mind. Colleen enjoys sharing her wisdom on facing business and life challenges, from running a $250,000 plus business to restarting after 18 years. Colleen inspires audiences to know when people are open to change and ready to accept challenges head on, that they're happier and more productive in business and life. Welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot for having me, Kathleen.
All right. Well, let's jump into passions and business. And, you know, there's this whole conversation going on, do what you love and the money will follow. I remember a book probably 25, 30 years ago that I read by that title. And yet a lot of people can't seem to make that work. So I really want to get into when people's passions and talents meet, they're most productive and have more personal and professional success. How does this happen?
For me, it was easy to know my why 23 years ago because I knew what I loved. I had my son who I needed to be here for him. Mm-hmm. I had my specialty was medical transcription. I knew it forward and backwards. He needed me here. I wanted to be here with him. That's when home businesses were starting. So we were lucky. And I knew my why. I wanted to be here with him. He had many surgeries growing up, and I had a passion for what I was doing. So it was easy, and I loved it. And so fast forward 18 years, I knew the medical transcription industry was changing. I needed to change. My passion was going away, if you will, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I was lost. I was like, oh my gosh. I knew that I had all these talents. I had been a legal secretary for years, but that was boring. I wanted to do more. I wanted to do much more. And I found that I was doing virtual assistant work, but that wasn't really my passion. So I needed to find my why again. What was my why? And so what I ended up doing was figuring out, well, I love to help people write. I was a writer. And so I started going down that path. I had belonged to a writer's club. And these people didn't know how to move from putting their words in paper to mm-hmm. going to the publishing process. And so I figured, well, let me figure out how I can do that and help them do that. So that became my passion. But figuring out how to figure out what your why is, if that makes sense. And so I came up with these 4 questions about how people can figure out what their passion is. And what are your distinctive strengths? What do people love to do? What is it that gets you out of bed in the morning, Kathleen? What do you like to do?
For me, are you asking me that directly?
I'm asking you that
question.
Yeah, I'm asking you that, but that's one of the questions. What is it that makes you just so passionate about that you love to do to get you out of bed in the morning?
You know, one of the things that gets me out of bed in the morning is my dog. And I'm into animal rescue. And so being able to create a great life for the animals that we've rescued, that is one of my big whys. And health and fitness, that's another one. And I know that you're very into health and fitness, and we have to definitely talk about the triathlon, right, because that's, you know, that's where we have a common ground for sure. But really, for me, it's like being given another day. That's a big why for me. It's like I want to be able to give back as much as possible. And it's not always easy, which, you know, when you're working with your clients around their big why, what if they say, you know, life sometimes just is tough? How do you help them through that?
Well, it's hard because challenges come up. Mm-hmm. So I talk to them about, well, what kind of support do you have in place? You know, if you have a plan, whether it's a book plan, whether it's a plan to finish a half marathon, whether it's a plan to lose 20 pounds, whatever that plan mm-hmm. is that they have, if they're having trouble reaching that plan, like I was doing that 300-mile bike challenge last year, I ran into several issues, but if you have support along the way, if you know your why, like my why was raising money for children's cancer. Okay.
Okay.
And that's very important to my heart because of past experiences, past
Right.
family things. And that's what my why was. Going back to that why, if you know, if your why is strong enough, then yeah, you're going to come across challenges that are going to beat you up, and you're not going to feel like getting out of bed in the morning, or your bike's going to break down, or you're going to have a wreck on your bike, whatever that is. But if you've got that plan in place and you know what your goal is, your end goal is, and you've got the support system in place, have a support system in place that you can fall back on. You can call your friends. You can call and ask for help. You can cry. I went to the group, you know, Pat's group.
Right.
I went to the group, and I mean, I was raw at times, but have that support system in place that you can go to. And your plan can always change. The thing about a plan is, whether it's a business plan, your marketing plan, your plan to ride 300 miles, your plan to do a triathlon, that plan can always change. If this week I'm planning for that half marathon in October, it's been 100 degrees outside.
Ooh.
I could not
Yeah.
train outside this
Right.
week. So my plan had to change, where I would go inside and I would ride the bike, or I'd go to the pool and do water aerobics. So your plan can change. Does that help?
You know, I love that you're bringing that up, because a lot of times people get really stuck on, well, I said I would do it this way, whatever this way is. And the reality is that life will throw us these curveballs, and we have to learn how to either catch them or avoid them and keep with our plan. And, you know, it's interesting because I was thinking about that this morning as I was, first I went to the gym. I do a morning process every day. It's like without fail, I have a morning process. And right now it's the 20-20-20 by Robin Sharma. And after my morning process, I work out, whether it be running or going to the gym. Well, today went to the gym and I went on a run with my dog. And I was thinking about how we don't always feel like sticking with whatever we say we're going to do. And I think what I really admire about you, when you did the 300-mile run or the bike ride, I watched your process of training for it. And it's really interesting, because so often people give up when things get tough. And you work with a lot of entrepreneurs who they need to just move forward. And first of all, tying all of what you do into working with entrepreneurs compared to hobbyists, because oftentimes somebody calls themselves an entrepreneur, but they're really a hobbyist. How do you work with entrepreneurs, and how do you encourage them to stick with the plan but be flexible around the plan?
That's a great question, because we're working with someone now actually that's doing that. We had a VIP day with a client a few months ago, and she wanted to publish a book and she wanted to get it out by October. But on our VIP day, what we came up with was a book plan for her and her writing plan, et cetera, et cetera. And it actually was going to be, the writing was going to be finished in October, and then she wanted to publish it back in March next year with the theme of her book. Well, she got so overwhelmed because of her life and things going on in her work life, etc. So she stepped back and she kind of went away. She went away. So we've recontacted her and said, look, the plan doesn't have to stay exactly as it was.
Right.
We can work with you to make it go longer. You don't have to stick to that plan. Let's talk about it. Let's make it go longer. We can narrow it down to not being written in by 6 months.
Right.
Make it work for you. What is it that you need us to change or work with you about in order to make it feasible for you to get it out there? Because her story is important. Does that answer?
Yeah, it does. And let me ask you this, you know, okay, somebody's got a plan, whether it be for a book, their business, their marketing, but their MO is that they create a lot of plans, they start and then they stop, and then they start and they stop. How do you either decide, okay, this person, that's just their MO, that's in their DNA, and they're not going to change. They sabotage all the time. And how do you distinguish those people from the ones that really do need to have more flexibility? And you know they're committed, but life just got in the way.
Oh, wow. Well, we just decide if they aren't committed, then we say, maybe you need to wait It's not that we don't want to work with them,
Right.
but times there becomes a time where if they aren't committed, we set the systems in place for them to be successful and follow through. And what happens is we work backwards, say whatever it is, if it's a book plan, if it's a marketing plan, whatever, we'll work backwards from their supposed launch date or publication date and work backwards from that. And it gets to a point where if they don't want to follow through with it, then we'll work with them for as long as we can. But then we say, look, if you're not into it, because it takes commitment. They have to commit to it. If they aren't committed to it, then they are just, I hate to say just a hobbyist, but there is a difference between a hobbyist and an entrepreneur. And a lot of people, I'm using the word authors because we work with a lot of authors, right. But a lot of authors don't believe that their book is a business because their book is a business.
Absolutely.
And they need to treat it as a business and put those systems in place to make it a business, make it a book plan, make it a book plan, their marketing plan, their writing plan, commit to that, put it all in place. And that's what's going to make their book a business and be successful. Right. If they're a hobbyist, they just want to do everything themselves. They don't want to hire the professionals. They want to control everything themselves. Not spend the money, not invest in themselves.
Right.
And so when it gets to that point, we have to let go a lot of times and just say, when you're ready to come back, if you're ready to do this, then we're happy to work with you. But there comes a point where you have to let go because it's not worth our time, right. If you will. Because if they are just a hobbyist, it becomes frustrating on your part as an entrepreneur, as somebody who wants to help them and coach right. them. If they don't want to take your advice, then, and it's funny because Peter's my business partner, and he's a lot more, easygoing, like, it's okay, don't take it personal, Mom. And I'm sometimes like, well, I don't understand why they don't want to do it. And so I'm letting go a lot more. But right. You have to, business owners focus on their strengths and making sure that what they're going to do, they're focusing on their strengths, getting the job done. Hobbyists just put it out there and, when the wind hits me.
When the skies open up. Well, I hear that from authors a lot because I work with a lot of authors also. And like with one of my books, we did a whole launch around it where it went into a 3-day event. The 3-day event, I introduced my year-long coaching program, and we made $250,000 at the event. It was a pretty successful event. And I had people saying, "Oh, you're so lucky." And it's like, no. Luck had nothing to do with it. Luck had to do with the fact that I worked my backside off. And, so oftentimes people, they say they want something like, let's say the 300-mile ride that you took. Oh, how nice that you did that. I would love to do something like that. No, you wouldn't, because if you wanted to, you would be doing it. See, and that's the thing where I do get frustrated with people. It's like, come on, don't tell me you want to do something and then you come up with every reason why you can't do it, or you shouldn't be doing it, or you sabotage your success around it. So let's talk about what it does take for somebody to be successful at different points in their business. Because I know when I was a brand new entrepreneur, I've had my business 25 years. When I was a brand new entrepreneur, my mindset and what I needed back then is very different than what I need today. So at different points in an entrepreneur's journey, how do you advise them on the type of, whether it be mentoring, coaching, consulting, training programs, resources? How do you advise them on what they need?
Wow, that's loaded. So what we do is we talk to them. What we start out with is a complimentary strategy session, no matter what we do with people, and find out where it is they are in their business, in their book, whatever part they are. And we go from there. So say it is that they want to, I'm going to use a book, that they want to write a book. Then we talk to them about, well, what is it you want to do with your book? So we're working with a woman now who's writing a memoir on, she was sexually abused. Okay. So we're working with her, and she wants to get that story out there. And so we sat down with her for a 3-hour session, and we worked with her on what is it that you want to do in the long run. And we take her through the steps of your book plan. How do you see yourself? When we start with their, what is it that you want? Where do you see your, do you want to be, first of all, do you want to be a bestseller? Is that what your goal is? What is the goal for your book? Do you want to be a bestseller? Do you just want to get your story out there? Do you know who your audience is? They have to nail down these certain things in order to move on to what they want to do. Does that make sense? There's so many questions that you need to ask them. So we find out where it is they want to go first, and then move backwards from there. So we worked with the children's author in the last couple years ago, and what she wanted to do was get her children's book out there. And she was actually a great, if you will, specimen, or not specimen, but a person who followed what needed to be done.
Okay.
She worked with a book coach on her writing. Okay, she worked with a book coach on her writing. She took the advice of, she wanted an illustrator, so we worked with her, and she took the advice on we more or less project managed the system for her. And we said she wanted an illustrator for her book, so we set her up with the illustrator for her book, and then we set her up with where we did the background work for her. And I guess maybe I'm digressing here, but we can do all of the author assistant work for anybody for the projects. But as entrepreneurs, now that we want to grow our business, what we want to do is farm out the author assistant work to our team members, so that we can do more coaching and consulting to authors to help them set up their book plan or their publishing plan. And that's what makes us more of an entrepreneur than a hobbyist, and trying to do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. In that you work with a lot of authors. Are you a published author?
We are working on our books to be published later this year. Yes.
Excellent.
We have actually, 3 in the works right now.
Wow. No obsessive personality disorder there. Go to 3 books at the same time. Okay, I get it. So now, how does somebody know if they're cut out to be an entrepreneur? Because quite seriously, a lot of people don't understand the mindset of an entrepreneur. They think that we just, make our own hours, and we just, come and go as we please. And there's a lot of discipline that goes into being a good entrepreneur. How do you know if somebody is?
Oh, wow. It goes back to commitment. It goes back to having the plan and doing it. Because people can say that they'll work it. Oh, I'm going to go back and say, I'm not going to say my family doesn't get what I don't do, meaning my siblings, my outer family, not my immediate family. I don't think they ever really get what I do, because they'll drop in. They think people who are true entrepreneurs who work out of their house don't do laundry during the day. They don't get up and do the dishes during the day. They have a set schedule. They get up, like you say, you get up and you do your exercise in the morning. And that's the same thing I do. I get up and do my exercise. I'll have my coffee. I may watch a little bit of the news, but from 9 until 5, I am working.
Right.
And I even work some nights. Like the other night, I was working till 10 because we had to get a proposal out, and I needed to get that out. So entrepreneurs will do whatever it takes to get that work out, to do it. And they're disciplined. They're not gonna, like my friends, they have the summer off because a lot of them are teachers, okay?
Right.
And they've called me up Monday to go swimming. Come on, Colleen, come over and go swimming. Come on, Colleen, we're gonna go blueberry picking. Come on, Colleen. And I said, I cannot do that. I would love to, but I cannot do that. So the mindset of an entrepreneur, you have to be committed. You have to have plans. You want to, do you want to make the money or not? It's not just going to come floating through the door or by osmosis. It's planning, it's committing,
Right.
and
Right.
and is finding the support. It all goes back to having the support to
You know,
do.
that is so huge, having the support. Like, we have one service we offer where we'll actually go out and find podcast interview opportunities for clients. And I have a support team for that because I don't have the time to do that. It's a great service, but it's not cost effective for me to be the one to research the shows. I actually have a team where we have a researcher, we have somebody who does the outreach. There's a whole process in it. And I did try to do it myself, it was a nightmare. It wasn't that I couldn't do it. It just was, my time was worth far more than what I could pay a team member to do it. And I think that's where a lot of times entrepreneurs get kind of caught up is they think they're going to be saving money by doing something themselves. And, it's interesting what you say about people not understanding and just dropping by and saying, well, let's go swimming today. I have one person in my life who still to this day, she's an elderly person. She goes, so what are you doing tomorrow? I said, working. You are? It's like Monday through Friday is, I've got my schedule. I get in my office by a certain time and I end at a certain time. And during that time, that's my office time. But okay, so with what you do with your clients, what would you say is your real sweet spot of what you absolutely love doing with your clients when they're getting a book to market? Is it the concept? Is it helping them to write the book? Is it helping them to publish the book? What's your sweet spot?
My sweet spot, I actually have two, I guess, if you will. I love helping them put the book plan together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then after they've written it, Peter's a great editor.
Nice.
Like copy editor, he is fantastic. I can prove anything. I can spot a mistake, grammar mistake, a syntax mistake like that. And I love doing that.
Nice.
That's my sweet spot. That's what I like to do.
Huh.
I do. It's funny when they used to have, newspapers, the written
newspapers. Right. Yeah.
I could look at it and I would go, oh my God, how do they send that out? And my friend actually worked at a newspaper, and I said, how do they send that out? And they said, we don't have time for people to read it. And I'm like, are you kidding me? This is a professional paper. But that's my sweet spot, what I like to do. But I really want to get more into speaking and coaching and consulting people, but I love helping them with the book.
Okay, you want to do more speaking, and because I've been a speaker for 25 years, and I'll tell you, everything seems to have gotten a lot more competitive as the internet has become a big deal for everybody, where it used to be that if you were a speaker, you were one of a few and a handful of people. And now you go into a room and you say, how many people are speakers? And quite a few people will call themselves speakers or authors or whatever. What's your plan around getting speaking engagements? What do you find is most effective for you personally?
These podcasts that I'm doing with you and with other people, but I'm going out online, and we have actually done lunch and learns in town locally, lunch and learns, and I'm getting out networking more and talking to people about doing speaking engagements. So that's slower than what I'd like it to be, but I think that might be somewhat of my slowness, if you will.
It's funny because I just this morning shot a video that's going to be going up on YouTube pretty soon about how we sabotage our success through our subconscious thinking. And that, a lot of people say they want podcast interviews, or you can say speaking, you can say writing books, you can say just about, I want to get in great shape, but their conscious mind says one thing, their subconscious mind will say a whole different thing, and they have a whole different conversation around it. But I love what you're doing, and I love your transparency, because I think, one of the greatest challenges that we run into nowadays is that we try to be perfect and we try to have it all figured out. And I know that's been, for me, that's been a real thorn in my side for myself, where I don't want people to know that I don't know. And what I finally figured out, where I had the greatest turning point in my life, was when I realized if you can admit you don't know something, you can get help for it. So, that's why we hire coaches. That's why people would hire your company. So speaking of your company, how do people find you? Let's make sure they know that.
If they go to Your Literary Prose, and that's PROSE.com, a little take on prose, yourliteraryprose.com, and that's how they can reach me.
Okay.
And can I hop back real quick to where you were talking about hobbyists and
absolutely, absolutely.
Because this was on my mind and I forgot to say it. I believe that a hobbyist and a real business entrepreneur is, every entrepreneur needs a coach. You need to have a business coach.
Okay.
And I'm going back to, I had a business coach when I first started my business 23 years ago, worked with a coach for a while. Then I stopped because we were doing pretty well. And then when I needed to restart, I found Pat, as you know.
Who's amazing, amazing,
oh, amazing. And I wrote it. This is in one of my speeches that I give. And I say, I couldn't afford Pat at the time, but I could not afford not to have Pat at the time.
I love that.
So I've been coaching with her 3 years, and I continue for a little bit longer with her.
Well,
but you can't afford not to, and you have to invest in yourself. And if you're an entrepreneur,
and it says something about your mindset to select a coach like Pat, because she is the cream of the crop. She's a dear friend of mine. We've been in the same high-end mastermind together. We were coached by the same coach together. She's just a phenomenal woman. So that says something about your quality. And let's, just so people really get what you have to offer to them, describe to me your sweet spot client. If you could wave a magic wand and say, okay, this is my ideal client, who would you love to work with, and who would really benefit from working with you?
Okay. Our sweet spot client is people who have, we say change makers and influencers, and I think that's a little broad, but people who really want to influence the world with their story. They have a real story to tell. Like this lady we're working with who was sexually abused and by a clergyman, but it was not a Catholic priest. And she's telling her story because she wants the world to know that it's not just Catholic priests who do it. It's other clergymen too. Right. So it's people who have a story. It doesn't have to be a tragic story. It can be a story that inspires people or would help somebody out of whatever life story they've been through. Somebody who just has a story to tell and they want to get it out there. That's awesome. That's
they have a budget. And they have a budget.
Yes, they want to pay. They're not a hobbyist.
They're excited to pay. You know, I actually have that on my description of the ideal client. It's like they love paying me. They get excited about paying me. Because it's like when I work with coaches that I pay them, I really get excited about that because I know they're going to take me to a place that, one, I may go kicking, screaming, and fighting. It's like I usually do what they say to do, but there's times that so much fear comes up. And I can remember one coach I hired that it was not an inexpensive proposition. I was paying probably $30,000 a year just for her services. And you know, you take me back in time, and there was a period where if somebody told me I was going to invest that kind of money, it's like, you're crazy. I'm never going to do it. Best investment I ever made. And it was so interesting because there were a couple of things that she had me do that outwardly it didn't look like a big deal, but inside I was ready to die. And I was like, I don't know if I can do this. What if my world falls apart because of it? And she said, trust me. She goes, you're on the ledge and you're going to learn how to fly. And, you know, so I really appreciate what you said about the kind of people that you look for to work with. And again, give us your web address again.
It is https yourliteraryprose.com.
Okay, and we'll put that all in the description. And in closing, is there anything else you'd like to share with the viewing audience?
Yes, I would. One of my favorite quotes that Lily Tomlin said was, or is, the road to success is always under construction. And that was really important to me when I started writing my speech, my keynote speech, but also because our business is always under construction. It's always changing. And that's about challenges. It's about life, business, anything. So if we can always remember that things are always changing, we're going to come across challenges, but it's always under construction. And if we remember that, we can go on.
Awesome. Well, Colleen, it's been delightful. I've really enjoyed this. And I know that your business is just going to skyrocket. You're a rock star, and you are doing the very thing that you advise people to do, which that's the true sign of an entrepreneur and an expert. Thanks for being with us. And to everybody watching, I encourage you, go visit her website at Your Literary Pros, correct?
Yes.
YourLiteraryPros.com. Have a great day.
Thanks for having me, Kathleen.
You bet.